Hi, I'm Demby, and I help take the mystery out of perimenopause and midlife, putting the power of healing back in your hands. Welcome to my channel. If this is the first time that we're meeting, and welcome back to those who have seen my videos before. In this particular video, I want to talk about part two of what's happening in the collective that so many of us are experiencing right now. And it's the fracturing of the family unit. We are all experiencing this in different ways. It might be in the inner circle, like between you and your partner and your children. It might be between siblings. It might be between cousins and through the extension of your entire lineage. But something is definitely changing. So regardless of whichever side of the fence that you are on in your family situation, it's not ideal for anybody. There is angst and stress and grief on both sides because both sides believe that their truth is the truth. They can only see what's happening through the lens of consciousness that they're embodying at the time, as every single one of us is. So while there are a lot of really traumatic and sad, depressing experiences around the family fracturing and the family unit no longer staying stable and cohesive as it may have in the past, there is also a benefit to this. And this comes down to our ability to see the higher vision, the higher or the bigger picture around the circumstances that are happening in our lives now. It's 7 years on since the beginning of all that stuff, and we are all seeing the effects, things that we warned others about that would happen in the future, and we are now in that future 7 years on. As far as mental health goes, as far as physical health goes, certainly, and as well as behavioural traits. So there is a lot of discord happening within individuals, especially those who have taken those. And that is affecting them not just with their relationship internally, but also with their relationship with their partners, their children, their family members, their friends, their work colleagues, everybody essentially. So a lot of us were separated from our families in regards to these things. That was a huge, line in the sand, if you want to call it that, within a lot of families. And there's nothing that we can do to change anybody's mind. We're not here to save anybody, and we can't make somebody think or believe the same things that we do, nor should we, because that's interfering with free will. So we must reach this space within ourselves by doing our own work and doing our own healing, where we can allow the beliefs and the experiences of others, those closest to us, to exist in the same environment, to just be there as part of that collective whole. Nothing wrong, nothing right about it. It's just what it is. And we are all works in progress. So we are all on this journey of self-discovery. And it's got nothing to do with us being better than anybody else or someone being lesser than us. Let's not apply that hierarchical attitude to what we are experiencing within humanity right now, because those who are pulling the strings want us to be divided. They are reveling in the fact that our families are falling apart. They are really excited about the fact that many of us are becoming estranged to people that we have loved all of our lives. So we have to keep that in the back of the mind, especially when we are working with a lot of repetitive experiences where, for example, you may be the one who's always offering the olive branch and never getting anything reciprocated back. At some point, you will have to reach a space within your own heart where you are no longer prepared to sacrifice or surrender your own happiness and joy in order to perhaps stay inside a particular family environment. And as I said at the beginning of this video, that is really sad and tragic, of course, and I'm certainly not encouraging people to do that. We are all walking our own path in this way, and everybody's circumstances are different. But if we think about back in history, and also a lot of the times that we say ourselves, there's going to be a fracturing or a splitting of timelines. Some people are going to go down one pathway, others are going down the other. Then we must apply that to our families as well, because we don't know that this split is not in some way absolutely necessary for the lineage to evolve. And if we go back to, let's just take an example of medieval times, what we know of history, where there was obviously a lot of war and a lot of infighting, and we had a lot of disputes over lands, for example, and inheritances, and lots of financial deceit, and a lot of emotional blackmail and things like that going on. We're still experiencing that just in a modern day version way. So my point is that sometimes it is necessary for ancestral lines to split, to go their own separate ways. Because what's been happening since 2020 has definitely stirred many humans into action and awareness and pushed many others at the same time into deeper psychosis, unawareness, not willing to look at new information or change their life circumstances or their health circumstances in any way. Again, whatever's alignment for them works for them. It's actually none of our business. So if we're dealing with family members who have pretty much lived from a disempowered state of being all their life, where they've been yes sir, no sir, and followed the government rules and stood on all the circles and all the dots in recent years and done all these things and haven't even questioned why, there's actually nothing that we can do about that. That has to be their experience in this particular incarnation. And in my experience, people like that, when they get an opportunity, however it comes to them, to suddenly wield some control in their life and control over others, they usually grab hold of it with both hands. And their behavior will reveal what their childhood trauma that remains unresolved actually is. So if they have spent their entire life as adults suppressing their emotions, doing what they're told, being the good girl or the good boy, and never voicing or speaking their truth, then when they come into a situation where they've got either more people behind them, they feel that sense of we're all in this together, or they come into a position of power, for example, as over an estate like a power of attorney, then that's going to be quite intoxicating because now finally they're using that unconsciously as a way to make things right, to bring about some sense of justice. And if this has happened to you, if you're experiencing fracturing in your family line, then you will have to reach a point where you are willing to either sacrifice your own values and principles to stay connected with the family. Depends how toxic it is, of course. Or you may determine that it's actually better for you to move away from the family, start your own settlement, and evolve your family line as you feel that you need to. As long as you are doing these things, making these choices and decisions from a space of love, not fear, not vengeance, not wanting to get revenge, not any sense of nastiness and childhood or adolescent angst and frustration. Because a lot of adults in the last couple of years had made a lot of decisions that's badly affected their health out of that wounded space. And we're seeing that now, and we warned about that 7 years ago, that these things are catching up with those people who don't have the tools. They haven't developed the self-awareness nor the tools to help themselves through those rites of passages. And so all that holds in the body, it holds in the cells, it holds in the womb, it holds in the organs, it holds in the mind and the psyche. And that is like a wedge that drives families even further than maybe some, moments or some words shared in the heat of an argument. It's these belief systems that other people hold on to that they won't let go of because they don't know who they are without the old stuff. So we can only have compassion for them if that's what we are feeling and reading from those who are closest to us, to our loved ones, our friends, or people that we've worked with, for example, for many years as well. You'll have to determine that for yourself when you feel into your own body and you observe what's happening in all of these engagements with these different people. And sometimes the most loving thing that you can do is walk away. And I'm not saying do that forever, even just temporarily, containing your own space, getting yourself healthy and strong again, and allowing for some time to heal whatever has been going on between you and your family members or your friends or your colleagues. At some point, everything comes through the washing machine. Some of us are really good at picking up on the nuances of energy, like feeling the subtleties and the shifts there. And then we can know what the consciousnesses are behind those experiences. But for other people, it takes a bit longer. And who knows, some people may never be able to develop that skill in this lifetime. But that's actually, again, none of our business. So this splitting of the families, the splitting of the timelines has happened throughout history. When we look back into the Orion Wars, the Lyran Wars, the Pleiades, and the Draco Wars, humanity, or whatever we were as a humanity back in those days, in those times, was always brought to a precipice where they would be forced to bend the knee to comply with the rulers, the oligarchs. So what we're witnessing now with all of this encroaching of digital this, that, and the next, each one of us will have to make a decision and compromise our values to a degree that feels right for us in order to stay participating in society, basically. And if we don't, then that takes us down a different path. And maybe that path takes us away from our loved ones. Maybe they will join us down the track, who knows? Maybe our moving away from them will be the catalyst that wakes them up, and then suddenly we all reunite. We don't know. But the main thing is that we have to make choices out of love for ourselves and to stop sacrificing, being people pleasers, and putting our own heads on the chopping block, because we are not here to save anybody, no matter how much we may love them. No matter how much we may want to save them. Now, the pressure to submit to the machine is increasing across the world in different ways. There might be some pockets around the world now, some countries where things seem pretty good, and a lot of people are flocking to those areas. But at some point, everything is going to come together as one big conglomerate. So the invitation is to now start to level up from a soul level, or take yourself down a path where you may become an earthbound soul. And that will re-loose you back into that reincarnation cycle and separate you further from your true knowing, from your essence. What that looks like, none of us can know for sure. But it's a refragmenting and fracturing from within. And I've always believed that the reason that we came here, that we were spat back out of wherever to come back here so many times, is to recover those fragments, those aspects of our seed soul self, so we can get to the point where we're sovereign and contained enough to not be afraid of death. And when we move through that portal, to actually move ourselves out of what is possibly a simulation, or, as many say, a prison realm here. So to do that, you need to be very conscious and contained on all levels of your being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and very determined not to sacrifice yourself for anything or anyone. When you can reach that energetic space, then no one and no thing can actually harm you. Let's take Christmas as an example of where we're witnessing this fracturing happening. So for a lot of people, those sorts of engagements and gatherings are not fun for whatever reasons. And for a lot of people, it's like the only time that you actually see your extended family, when we have these big get-togethers, or funerals, of course, and births, those sorts of markers. And there's a lot of, let's just say, conditioning and conversations that we have, quite often repetitive, with these people that we don't really know, but that we're related to, and that we feel like we need to get on with and need to like, but quite often we don't. We have very different personalities. So just because people are in your bloodline doesn't necessarily mean that they're of the same soul pool as you. So a lot of those gatherings can be really uncomfortable and distressing. And of course, add alcohol to the mix, and then everything can get really, things can blow up. And I'm sure many of you will be able to relate to that, and arguments over the table, and all sorts of crazy, insults. And then everyone makes up, but then there's, stuff packed away. All sorts of things can go on. So we're reaching that point now, for those of us who are elevating our awareness, that we don't want to be involved in just the fake, mundane conversations anymore. We just can't, we don't have the energy to do that, to fake it till we make it anymore. So it's the shedding and the falling away of those kinds of relationships that is not something that we can initiate. I believe we shouldn't initiate it anyway. If it happens organically and you just suddenly find that that's what's going on in your family, then that takes courage and discipline to recognize that, and to love everything as things unravel and take you in a new direction. And then that experience can then serve you to your highest and best and also the others. But again, not your responsibility as to how that eventuates for others as well, because everybody is here with free will to action as they deserve and as they wish to. So look, we're all carrying trauma from childhood in different ways, some people more than others. And if we haven't moved through our adolescence and our young adulthood with any sense of awareness or very little sense of awareness and personal growth, then we hit the rite of passage, for example, as women, that it's called perimenopause, and everything comes up and out. A bit like childbirth, when if you've suppressed your emotions or your anger or frustration or resentment, all those things, and now you're birthing a baby and every layer of your being is stretched to its limit, everything's really wide and open, then all of your rah comes out. And all of those languaging, all the swear words and the frustration and the anger comes out because you're in such a deeply intense and emotional, vulnerable space. So we've been watching that over the last couple of years as well. Maybe not necessarily, although there are, of course, lots of people that are just going crazy. There's lots of escalations in violence and war, obviously, which is a little bit more on a different scale, being orchestrated by governments. But as far as personal stories and what's happening in communities, there is a lot more violence and a lot more stress and angst. And certainly with the financial side of things coming in, a lot of people are understandably stressed. So when we're dealing with that dynamic in society, if we don't want to keep playing that role and keep being associated with that, let's just call it a vibration or a certain level of frequency of consciousness, then we're going to have to make a choice whether we want to stay involved in that or move away and apply the sovereign rules that we say that we've been learning about and the sovereign memories that are coming through our bodies with having done that work on ourselves for so long. So again, not a judgment on those who aren't on the same page as us, because everybody is doing the work at the level that's right for them at the time. I obviously don't have the answers for everybody. I just want to share this today and let you know that if this is happening for you, if there's estrangement or separation or tension in your family, that you are not the only one, that there are thousands and thousands of people that are experiencing this right now. It seems to be like the next stage of separation or processing after the 2020 stuff that went on. And there's a process to this. So when you're aligned with Mother Nature, you understand that the rhythms of nature take time, that there is wisdom, there's a reason and a season for everything that happens in nature. And we are made up of the elements. We are nature, walking and talking around the way that we do. So when you drop into that level of awareness and you trust in the wisdom of your own body, that helps you get through whatever the next thing is that we're going to get through as a species. Trusting that the long haul, and I know a lot of people find that really hard because we've been conditioned to basically just put your hand out and receive from the nanny state, or to be told what to do, funneled in certain directions. We've been conditioned and programmed to believe certain things, that, for example, nature is bad and that we need these things to make us healthy. Small one example off the top of my head, but there's many others that you can think of, and please share them in the comments if you wish to. But ultimately, especially as women, we are the grandmothers of the next generation, and the men, you are the grandfathers of the next generation as well. So it's about putting our staffs in the ground and drawing the lines in the sand and holding that container strong for ourselves as we move forwards. And we witness, it's a big part of whatever it is that we're going to witness that is beyond our control. The momentum of things that are happening on a social scale and the cultural scale and financially, economically, etc. Even within that, we still have personal power where we choose to place our attention, who we choose to give our attention to, and the path that we choose to walk that is aligned with our hearts and our soul's purpose and desire. So coherence in the heart, between the mind and the heart, and anchoring yourself. And what does that actually mean? When people talk about anchoring your energy and grounding yourself and just letting everything happen around you and just be peace, love, among beings. It doesn't really mean much at all. And we say it a lot, and I hear it a lot as well. So grounding and anchoring yourself in your intention. You can sit there and meditate to you levitate. That's fine. But as far as being practical in your everyday experience, it's being in your body, it's doing daily practices, it's eating well, it's meditating if you want to, it's getting out into nature and not raising your vibration. That takes you into all of the higher frequencies that are being agitated deliberately on our devices to fragment us further. So you want to lower your vibration. You want to drop down an anchor, come out of this and into the heart and into the womb, into your roots. Be more accepting and loving and peaceful during the day. So you can step back and watch what is going on and receive what people say to you and listen to things and receive information and not get triggered by it, not be pulled out of yourself by it. That's the purpose of anchoring and grounding your energy. And when you're in that state of, it's not dissociation, but it is detachment to a degree, I can allow all these things to happen in the world around me without it affecting me. I can be the eye of the storm and let all the crazy shit fly around me, but I'm not going to let myself be pulled out of it. Or I go into some of it, but then I pull myself back into my center. That to me is what true grounding is. And when more of us do that, then we're going to see through the crazy. We're not going to fall for all of the bullshit. And we're going to be more inclined to move away from things that are a no for our bodies and that are not healthy for our children and that are going to help serve in the highest possible way our lineage as we choose to move forwards. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video. Please leave your comments down below and I'll see you in the next one.